Hey, let me ask you something. Have you ever been so in love that you felt like the world made sense in a way it never did before? Like suddenly colors seemed brighter, music hit differently, and you felt this strange pull toward someone, as if the universe itself had arranged it? Or have you ever been so heartbroken that you wondered if love was ever real in the first place? See, that's the thing. Love is confusing. One second, it feels like the most powerful force in existence. And the next, some scientist comes along and tells you it's just a cocktail of chemicals swirling around in your brain. So, which is it? Is love the thing that poets, dreamers, and philosophers have been obsessed with for centuries? Or is it just a biological trick played on us by evolution? Let's break it down. All right, let's get nerdy for a second. When you fall in love, your brain goes through some pretty wild changes. There's this explosion of dopamine. That's the feel-good chemical that makes you crave someone like an addict chasing a high. Your serotonin levels drop, making you obsess over them. Then there's oxytocin, the cuddle hormone, which strengthens the bond. And let's not forget vasopressin, the one responsible for long-term commitment. So, if we're looking at it purely from a biological standpoint, love is just chemistry. It's evolution's way of making sure we bond, reproduce, and raise our offspring in a way that increases the chances of survival. Romantic, huh? But here's the problem with that view. It makes love sound disposable. Like once the chemicals fade, love is over. And if that were true, why do people stay together for decades, even when the passion cools? Why do some people sacrifice everything for love? Even when there's no evolutionary benefit, there's got to be more to it. Science is great, but it doesn't explain why love feels so profound. I mean, if love is just a trick of the brain, why does it hurt so much to lose it? Why do people write poetry about it? Why do we chase it even when we know it can destroy us? Plato had this idea that love isn't just about attraction, it's about recognition. Like when you love someone, you're not just drawn to them physically, you're drawn to something deeper, something familiar. It's as if your soul remembers them from somewhere beyond this life. Then there's existentialism. Love, from this perspective, isn't something we find, it's something we choose. Love isn't just about chemicals, it's about meaning. When you love someone, you're saying, in this chaotic, indifferent universe, I choose you. And that's powerful, because if love was just chemicals, it would be the same every time, right? But it's not. Love feels different depending on the person. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's a slow burn, sometimes it's unrequited, and sometimes it changes you so deeply that you're never the same again. Here's the thing. Love is a chemical reaction. But it's also so much more than that. Saying love is just chemistry is like saying a masterpiece painting is just paint, or a beautiful song is just sound waves. Yeah, the physical components exist, but they don't explain the depth of the experience. Love is real because we feel it, because it shapes us, because it makes life richer, harder, and more meaningful. Science explains how love works, but it doesn't explain why it's so powerful. So, is love real? Absolutely. And is it also a chemical reaction? Yeah, sure, but does that make it any less magical? Not a chance. The real question is, how will you choose to love? Will you see it as something fleeting, something your brain tricks you into? Or will you see it as something worth fighting for, something that transcends biology? Because at the end of the day, love is what you make of it. All right, let's get straight to it. Love, at its core, is absolutely a biological process. Your brain, whether you like it or not, runs on chemistry, and love is one of its most powerful tricks. But before you start thinking, oh great, so I'm just a walking lab experiment, stick with me, let's break this down. The moment you fall in love, or even just feel that spark, your brain starts lighting up like a Christmas tree. It's not magic, it's dopamine. That's your pleasure and reward system kicking in, making you crave that person like a drug. You feel euphoric, your heart races, and suddenly they're all you can think about. It's the same mechanism behind addiction. Love is, in a very real sense, a natural high. Then comes serotonin, or should I say, the obsession chemical. In the early stages of love, serotonin levels drop, which makes you fixate on the person, thinking about them constantly. Ever wondered why love makes people act irrationally? Well, now you know. And if things go deeper, oxytocin starts running the show. That's the bonding hormone, released through physical touch, hugs, kisses, even just prolonged eye contact. It's why couples who stay together long-term feel deeply connected. Add vasopressin into the mix, and now we're talking long-term commitment. This little hormone is responsible for loyalty and monogamy in some species, and to some extent in humans too. Science has actually mapped out the different stages of love. Lust, driven by testosterone and estrogen. Basic attraction. Attraction, that dopamine and serotonin rush that makes you feel high on love. Attachment, oxytocin and vasopressin, creating emotional bonds. So, what does all this mean? Love feels profound because it is. But at the biological level, it's also just your brain running an ancient program designed to keep the species going. But does that mean love isn't real? Hold on, we're getting to that. All right, let's play devil's advocate. What if love is nothing more than nature's clever way of tricking us into reproducing and forming bonds to ensure survival? Think about it. That initial rush of passion? That's biology pulling the strings, making sure we stay together long enough to mate. That deep attachment we feel? That's evolution ensuring we stick around to raise offspring. The whole thing, romantic gestures, heartbreak, longing, it's all just chemistry, a biological con job. And here's the kicker. Passion doesn't last forever. Studies show that the honeymoon phase, that obsessive euphoric love, usually lasts between 6 months to 2 years max. After that, the dopamine levels drop, and suddenly love doesn't feel as intoxicating. Some people mistake this for falling out of love, when really it's just their brain returning to normal. This is why long-term relationships take effort. The chemistry that once did the heavy lifting eventually fades, and what's left is what you create. And it's not just hormones. Our attachment style, shaped in childhood, plays a huge role in how we love. If you had a secure upbringing, you're more likely to love in a healthy way. If your early relationships were unstable, you might struggle with trust, fear intimacy, or constantly seek validation. So, if love is so deeply wired into us, can we even call it a choice? Or are we just responding to programming we don't fully understand? Here's the reality. Love is biology. There's no denying it. Your feelings are influenced by hormones, neural pathways, and past experiences. But does that make love meaningless? No. A sunset is just a collection of light waves and atmospheric conditions. Music is just vibrations in the air. But does knowing the science behind them make them any less beautiful? Of course not. Love is the same way. Just because we can explain its mechanics doesn't make the experience any less profound. If anything, it proves just how intrinsic love is to being human. What really matters is how you choose to respond. You can let biology dictate your love life, bouncing from one dopamine rush to another, or you can recognize the science and embrace the deeper meaning. Because at the end of the day, love isn't just something that happens to you. It's something you build, nurture, and choose every single day. And that's what makes it real. All right, let's step away from the science for a second. We've already talked about how love is basically a cocktail of chemicals running through your brain. But here's the thing. If love is just biology, why does it feel like so much more? Why do we write poetry about it? Why do people make reckless sacrifices for it? Why does it hurt so much when it's lost? If love were nothing but chemistry, then technically every love story should feel the same. But they don't. Love can feel epic, tragic, fleeting, eternal. It can destroy us, or it can make us whole. So what if love isn't just something that happens to us, but something deeper, something transcendent? Let's get philosophical. You know, the ancient Greeks had this figured out thousands of years ago. They didn't just lump all forms of love into one vague idea. They broke it down into different categories. Eros, romantic, passionate love, the fiery, intoxicating kind that pulls you towards someone with an intensity that makes you forget the rest of the world. Philia, deep friendship, the kind of love based on mutual respect, trust, and shared experiences. This is the love that builds strong friendships and lifelong connections. Agape, universal love, selfless, unconditional love. The love that parents have for their children, the love that drives acts of kindness and compassion for strangers. So here's the interesting part. Only Eros is heavily tied to biology. The other two? They don't rely on attraction, hormones, or evolutionary survival. They come from conscious effort and choice. That brings us to something existentialists like Sartre and Camus talked about. Love as a way to create meaning in an otherwise indifferent universe. Think about it. The universe itself doesn't care about love. Stars explode, planets collide, time moves forward without a second thought. But we care. Love is something humans create, something we choose to give meaning to. This is the paradox. If love were just a chemical reaction, why does it feel so deeply personal? Why do certain people feel irreplaceable? If love were purely biology, then logically we should be able to replace one partner with another and feel the same. But we can't. That's because love at its highest level is more than instinct. It's recognition. A connection that seems to go beyond space, time, or even logic. Now, let's talk about something that most people don't realize about love. It's not just something you fall into. Love is a choice. The early stages? Sure, those are automatic. The rush of attraction, the excitement, that's easy. But deep, lasting love? That's built. It's commitment, sacrifice, and effort. Think about all the greatest love stories in history or literature. Romeo and Juliet. That was passion, not love. It didn't last long enough to be tested. But take someone like Odysseus and Penelope, separated for years, yet their love endured through faithfulness and patience. That's the kind of love that transforms people. And let's not forget how art, poetry, and music depict love. If love were purely biological, why would artists spend their entire lives trying to capture its essence? Love has inspired the greatest works of human creativity, from Shakespeare's sonnets to love songs that make you cry at 2 a.m. Now let's talk about soulmates. Are they real or do we create them? Some people believe love is fate, that certain souls are destined to find each other. Others say love is about the experiences we build with someone over time. Which is it? Maybe both. Maybe you don't find your soulmate. You become soulmates through shared struggles, laughter, pain, and joy. Love starts as chemistry, sure. But it doesn't stay that way. Love isn't just a feeling, it's a force that we cultivate, a choice we make, a meaning we give to our lives. Yes, biology plays its part, but it doesn't define everything. The way you love, the people you choose, the depth of your emotions, those things transcend mere chemical reactions. So the real question isn't, is love real? It's, what do you make of it? Because at the end of the day, love is as real as you allow it to be. All right, we've been on a journey here. We've talked about how love is wired into your brain. Dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, the whole neurochemical symphony. We've also explored the philosophical side, how love seems to transcend biology, shaping our identities, our art, our deepest sense of meaning. So, which is it? Is love just chemistry, or is it something more? Here's the truth. It's both. Love isn't just a biological reaction, but it's not some mystical force either. It's something in between, something far more interesting. Let's break it down. Here's something crazy. Your emotions don't just exist in your brain, they shape reality. Ever noticed how when you're in love, the world feels different? Food tastes better. Music makes more sense. Even boring things like running errands or sitting in traffic feel bearable because you're thinking about someone. That's not just in your head, it's real. Studies show that emotions can literally affect perception. People in love tend to have higher pain tolerance, a more optimistic outlook, and even a stronger immune system. On the flip side, heartbreak isn't just a metaphor. Your brain processes it like physical pain. So here's the kicker. Love might start as chemistry, but once it's there, it shapes your experience of the world. That's why two people can look at the same situation and feel completely different about it. Love changes the lens through which you see life. And that leads us to the next big idea. Let's say love starts as a chemical reaction. That doesn't mean it stays that way. What you believe about love changes how you experience it. Think about it like this. If you believe love is temporary, that it's just a passing chemical high, then that's exactly what it'll be for you. You'll chase the rush, enjoy it while it lasts, and then move on when the feeling fades. But if you believe love is something deeper, something you build over time, then that's the reality you create. Love, in many ways, is like faith. It doesn't work unless you choose to believe in it. And the people who do, they're the ones who experience the deepest, most fulfilling love. You ever see those old couples who've been together for 50, 60 years? Do you think they stayed in love because the chemistry lasted that long? No way. The passion probably burned hot in the beginning, but eventually it had to evolve. They stayed together because they chose to, because they kept showing up for each other, and even when it was hard. And that's what separates fleeting love from the kind that actually lasts. It's not about how strong the feeling is in the beginning. It's about how much effort you're willing to put in once the honeymoon phase fades. Let me hit you with some real-life examples. The war-torn lovers. I read about this couple who fell in love during World War II. They were separated for decades, different countries, different lives. But they never stopped thinking about each other. Eventually, they reunited in their 80s and got married. Now, if love was just chemicals, explain that. Explain why two people who had no biological reason to stay connected never let go of each other. The couple who chose each other every day. A guy once told me about his parents. They'd been married for over 40 years. When his mom got sick, his dad took care of her every single day, even when she couldn't remember his name anymore. Was that oxytocin? Maybe. But was it also something deeper? Absolutely. Love isn't just about feeling, it's about choosing, even when it's inconvenient, even when it's painful. The unbreakable bond between friends. Love isn't just romantic. I know a guy who lost everything, his job, his house, his confidence. But his best friend never left his side. That kind of loyalty, that kind of love, it's not about reproduction or evolutionary survival. It's about something deeper, the human need to matter to someone. Love begins as a chemical reaction, but what happens after that? That's up to you. Biology might be what starts love, but belief, effort, and shared experience are what make it last. The realest, deepest love isn't the one that burns the hottest in the beginning. It's the one that survives, evolves, and deepens over time. So don't get caught up in the question of, is love real or just chemicals? That's like asking if a song is real just because it's made of sound waves. The mechanics don't make it less beautiful. They make it possible in the first place. Love is as real as you allow it to be. So, what do you choose to believe? All right, we've gone deep on this. We've looked at the science, the philosophy, the personal experiences. So, what's the final answer? Is love just a bunch of chemical reactions firing off in your brain? Or is it something bigger, something transcendent? Here's the truth. It's both. Yes, love is rooted in biology. It starts with dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, the whole biochemical orchestra playing in your head. That's the foundation. But love doesn't stay just chemistry. It becomes more. It evolves. Love is real because we feel it. Not because it defies science, but because it transcends it. Think about it like this. Music is just vibrations in the air. Light is just waves. A painting is just pigments arranged on a canvas. But does knowing that take away their beauty? No. It makes them even more incredible because now you see the structure behind the magic. Love works the same way. It starts with a chemical reaction, sure, but the meaning we give it, that's entirely up to us. Here's the big question. Does it matter if love is just chemicals if it makes life more meaningful? Let's say, for argument's sake, that love is purely biological. That it's just neurons firing and hormones flooding your system. Does that change the fact that love makes life richer? That it gives us purpose, connection, and moments of pure, undeniable joy? No. Love isn't just about what it is, it's about what it does. It shapes us. It teaches us patience, sacrifice, resilience. It makes us dream bigger, feel deeper, and live more fully. Whether it's a fleeting romance or a lifelong bond, love leaves a mark on us. And isn't that what really matters? So forget the debate over what love is. The better question is, what will you do with it? Because at the end of the day, love isn't just something that happens to you. It's something you choose to embrace, nurture, and fight for. And that's as real as it gets.